Hello! Welcome to the Dad Report, a podcast for dads, by dads, about dad stuff.
Join us as we sit down and have meaningful conversations with friends, family, and coworkers.
We will talk about life, family, and so much more while working towards a goal of creating a healthy idea of what it means to be a dad. And it's another installment of the Dad Report.
Hey
Chad.
Justin, how you doing, my friend?
I'm exhausted, but
Of course
I'm well.
you are.
It's not even parent things; it's just work things, you know.
Okay. Well, hey, new place again,
Yeah.
new job.
Yeah.
You have a baby.
Yeah.
You got a couple things happening.
That's fair. That's fair.
Couple irons in that fire.
Yeah, we definitely would not be the Killalays if we did not move to a state and at least move twice in like the first 3 months. I don't think that would be us. So
Yes. So my wife and I agree that you and Megan are no longer allowed to move to a new place without approval. In fact, you should just have someone pick your new place the next time.
I mean, the
Yeah.
first place up here was a recommendation from one of Megan's Instagram peoples. So we kind of took that as approval. We don't even think that the apartments themselves were bad. We just think the unit we got put in that area was rough.
Yeah.
Between how dirty it was when we moved in, and then our neighbors constantly, let's just say certain smells travel a lot stronger and faster than other smells, and we could smell it in our kitchen. So
For sure.
and if it makes Megan uncomfortable, I'm one of those. While I don't necessarily buy into the, happy wife, happy life, though it's easy to say, I am someone who wants to recognize the, mental health and just overall well-being of my wife and family. And if she's uncomfortable, then let's find somewhere where we're comfortable. And the thankfully the apartment complex there did work with us to get out before a certain deadline, and so we saved some money. And they were
Nice.
they're very willing to. Yeah, it was good. It wasn't nearly as Chad, I don't know if Shauna's told you about how we got out of Shore House, but Megan pretty much just drew up a document that said, here's all the ways you're breaking Florida's
That is amazing right
tenant
there.
lease. Yeah, and she had a couple and she was like, we're not paying you a dime. So it was not that bad. But yeah, that's my dad report too for the week, because we moved last weekend and it was Easter, so it was all the things.
Yeah, new job. Give everybody an update. How's the new job going?
It's good. I mean, I'm just tired because it's back to being more physical labor than it is in a classroom. Instead of getting up and forcing myself to do a lap around the room, I'm constantly on my feet and lifting things, cutting things, changing light bulbs. I mean, it's your typical maintenance facilities type work, but that means you're constantly moving around or you're lifting. Recently, we've been building walls and installing tabletops and stuff in a shop that just got built for some of the church work needs. I mean, it's been a thing in progress apparently, and it just got put in. So we've been working on that pretty steadily, which means 2x4s and plywood. But yeah, it's been good.
All right. Well, let's see. I think it's time for a dad joke. What do you think?
I'm here for a dad joke always.
Okay, so I've heard this one a couple times. I heard it just the other day again.
This one doesn't brown on the other side, does it?
There's no brown in this dad joke. I promise.
If you don't know what I mean, go back to last week's episode. That dad joke was good. That was a funny one.
Yeah. Okay. So Justin, why do people love Switzerland?
I don't know. Why do they love Switzerland?
Well, the flag is a big plus.
That's so stupid.
Yes.
So stupid.
So stupid.
Oh my gosh.
Yet you are laughing, and I also
laughing.
see our guest laughing. So
go ahead and introduce him, Chad.
Yes.
I'm face palming.
So this week, I am very happy to introduce a good friend of mine to all of our listeners and watchers now on YouTube.
That's right.
We met at a job, actually. We worked together, and since then, we kind of reconnected through some things. We'll get into all that, but I would like to welcome my good friend, IT project manager, black belt, author, YouTuber,
Whoa.
Eric Davis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am very happy to be here. Pleasure to meet you, Justin and Chat. Good to see you again as always.
Good to meet you too, Eric.
Yes. So,
Uh,
Eric, why don't you just maybe take a minute and introduce yourself? Tell us about what's going on in the world of the Davis clan, and we'll get into it.
Well, all right. Well, I think you did a very good job introducing me. You covered almost all the ground. So, in short, I am still working. I'm promoted to program manager, which is a good thing, and
Oh,
working with a
nice.
larger company. So
oh,
it keeps me relatively busy.
okay.
Um, my former master in Taekwondo has us, my wife and I, running the school. And now that we have our second degree black belt, we are now working hard at training the first degree black belts to get their second degree and hopefully convince them to stay at our school and help us teach a lot of the new kids that are coming up. And then
Yeah.
on the dad side, I think you have a dad report. My 16-year-old is prepping herself for her junior year.
Whew.
And I think at that point, she's going to be getting dual credit, college and high school.
Yes. Okay.
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 A lot, a lot going on. And then there's my son. His in sixth grade, 2 more years left of the Catholic school, and then prepping him to go to public school, which is a whole different level of dad work. I mean, we've done it with our daughter, but it's different with a boy as it is with the girl, as you probably know, because there's only two, and one boy, one girl, and God made, male and female, and but I won't get on that soapbox. But anyway,
That's a whole new
so
world these kids are growing
Yeah.
up in for sure.
No kidding.
if you
And
aren't on
that
top of it, it will swallow you whole.
Come
I will
on.
write. I will write that down. I need all the advice I can get. But yeah, I bet it's. I mean, going from middle school private to public school, I was homeschooled private or no, homeschooled middle school and then dropped in the public school system high school. So I'm here if you need me.
Thanks.
So, Eric, let's talk Taekwondo a little bit. So,
Fair enough.
um, you actually, when we worked together, you told me about Yesha Ministries, right?
Yes.
Which is it is a nonprofit. It's really a ministry. It's a Christian organization um, for
Taekwondo.
for Taekwondo. It's led.
Mhm.
It's volunteer led, faith based. And you had told me about it a while ago, and I don't know how we finally got into it, but we got into it, and we were able to reconnect with you guys. But what's your pitch on Yesha and maybe Taekwondo as a whole? Like, how did you grab onto that train?
Well, remember our former coworker, Brad? Brad told me about Yesha. However, we were in Taekwondo for 2 years, just the children at the YMCA. And for 2 years, they were just white belts for 2 years.
Oh
They have
wow.
a monthly fee. They were not on a schedule the way Yesha is. And when we were told about Yesha, we gave it a shot. And with the cost difference going from $75 per person per month to $50 per person for the whole year,
Oh
we
wow.
couldn't beat that. And after the first day, Master Larry Wang, who is like a brother to me now, pretty much just gave us a spiel. What they do is more of ministry than Taekwondo. And it's like the sports of the 80s. And if you guys remember the 80s when we were all playing Pop Warner Sports and everything you got, you earned because there was no participation award. Either you won or you lost.
Fair
And
enough.
second place was the first loser, but you did get a nice participation award for second place. Third place just got a ribbon. Fourth, nothing. And there was like 15, 20 teams. And you wanted to win, you learned to go back and work. And those same principles, they hold dear today. Because if you don't know what a work ethic is, anything you do won't really have any meaning because you don't know that you worked for it. It was just given to you. Likewise with, the word of God, when he says faith without works is dead.
Mm,
Well, he's not kidding. I believe I'm going to be a black belt. Okay, work.
that's
For
right.
2.5 years, me, my wife, and my kids, we bust our butts. Granted, my wife and our black belts and our children, well, they lag behind because of school and other things that people compete with. But when we have that time together, I don't care what belt they really are. We're spending time together. The ministry has given us an ability to do a family oriented sport slash ministry that I have never seen in any athletic group I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, I I will second everything you say. So I have not started yet, but my boys are both in. Pierce, 16, he just recently got his black belt. Jude is he is on his way there. I believe he's blue advanced right now. So he's getting there. He's got his eyes on the prize for sure. But I will say, they definitely are the, hey, we're not giving you a belt just
Mm,
because, just because you think you deserve it or something. You do have to earn it. But I feel like they do a pretty good balance of, hey, you got to put in the work and also giving you some grace, right?
yes,
So
very much so.
yeah, I feel like I really, because we've tried out a few different martial arts over the years with the kids, and there's some where it's like, it's like they're making the kids cry, and we got to go do some in-home therapy when we get home. But
Cobra
I
Kai,
feel like,
but 80s Cobra
yeah,
Kai.
Boy.
yeah. But I do feel like there's a good balance, and it is, it as we mentioned, it is a ministry, so you definitely do see Jesus flowing through these people for sure. Um, but yeah, but at the end of the day, yeah, hey, you're not gonna get your next belt, your next advancement just by showing up. Like, you got to practice, right?
That's
You got to
true.
put in the work. And so, yeah, so anybody out there that's looking for that, like, I know, like, my kids were kind of transitioning between sports. They didn't really know what they wanted to do. And we said, hey, let's give this a shot. And they tried it. And I was like, hey, it's worth a shot, right? Let's go do a free class, see what happens. And man, they both took to it. And yeah, it's done great things for my boys for sure. And we found a good part of our community
Oh
through
yeah.
this as
You
well.
become a family when you get into Yesha.
Absolutely.
They were not kidding. It is when you think about community and the root word of commune, which is communion, there
Hmm.
is no communion without Christ. And this ministry is of Christ. So when we are a community, it is that in the most theological aspect. So when we're together, you are with a family.
Yes, sir.
And Reverend Eric over here.
Oh,
Come on.
Did you miss something, Chad? Like, is he secretly a pastor on the weekends as well?
well,
Oh, here we go. Eric, Chad also mentioned not, and hopefully we're not getting too far. I love the martial arts conversations. I love hearing that there are still people and organizations out there, A, that are Christ centered, and B, that don't just give out participation trophies. I took Tung Sudo, which I think is like a step cousin of Taekwondo, as it
I've
yes,
heard
were,
of
it
that. Yeah.
is. Yes, it is.
growing up, and it was the same way where it was like
Mhm.
you showed up twice a week to your class, and they knew if you missed a week, they're like, you got a test at the end of the month. You're taking that test regardless. So hopefully you have your form 5 down. And if you don't, and they would grade you on your tests. And I think they're more lenient. Like, if you missed a thing here or there, they kind of, like weighed the overall grade, as it were, if you passed. But I do remember some kids where it was like, no, I didn't pass the test. I'm still a brown belt. Like, I'm not moving up till, 3 months from now. But Chad also mentioned you're an author, Eric.
Yes,
Can you talk about that for a little bit? I heard it, and it
absolutely.
piqued my interest and curiosity. So,
Well, that is an interesting story in itself because it was the books that started the whole company. I've always had a story to tell. I just thought I was going to be writing complete science fiction,
mhm.
as in somewhere across between Buck Rogers and Star Wars and Star Trek. But I wrote the initial chapter for an art appreciation class
Hmm.
in 1990, maybe
Okay.
1989, my first year in college. And it sat there for well over 20 years. I kept saying, I'm going to write that book one day. I never did. But one day, it was right before I met Chad, I had lost the job due to whatever policies, procedures they were changing, and the contractors were no longer needed. And I was a contractor, and I was out. And I'm not certain what was going on, but in that very same year, a lot of the big companies had laid off a lot of technical workers. I think it was like 2000 and Chad, what was it? 2013? I think about 2012 or 2013, they had laid
Around
off
there,
a lot of places in Jacksonville laid off a lot of technical workers, and finding a job was so hard. So I sat back. I had a call from a friend of my wife's at work, and we were talking. He's another very strong Christian, and he just kept reminding me of the story of Job. I'm like, this is not the story I really want to talk about. One, I know what Job went through. Two, he was not patient. I like thinking, how about, can we go with Jonah and the whale?
Right.
Didn't have to lose everybody. And I felt that way. It's like I was deep in the bowels of a funk. And I didn't want to stay there. And God had it on my heart. Start a company. To do what? I mean, I like, what am I going to sell? He said, the book. Start writing it too. I'm like, you mean the science fiction book from 1990? He said, no. All of a sudden, it started hitting me. I had watched Speed Racer, the live action movie. And this goes back to why I really like Speed Racer so much. It reminded me of my childhood. And it was just that little spark. So much of my childhood, from Star Trek to Star Wars to the anime, was so much a powerful impact in inspiring me for the entire realm of my educational life to get the job at NASA, where I worked for 8 years, even though I was only there 8 years and thought I'd spend my life there, which is a whole nother story. But it reminded me, you have a story to tell. I'm like, but I couldn't finish it. All of a sudden, it was like the Holy Spirit took over, and I listened. And that took faith because I had to listen. I pulled out some notebook paper, my pen, and just started writing. It's like, my son, by this time, we were playing with Hot Wheels. My daughter came home with a Hot Wheel from a gift at a Christmas party at school, and I still have it. I call it Hot Wheel 1. Not the name of the car, but it's Hot Wheel 1, the one that started it all.
Hot Wheel 1. Okay.
Yes. And we were putting tracks together long before I ever saw people doing this online. But when I say putting tracks together, I had this idea, I want to make a closed loop. And my wife's like, what do you mean a closed loop? It's like, I'll make all these tracks circle around into one another, and now they have motors. I'm gonna make them go all around, make them keep going nonstop. I don't mean the store-bought one. I mean all of these put together. And when they started doing that, my son was loving it. I mean, I had to stop him from stepping over everything so I could finish building it so he can play with it. I couldn't work fast enough for him. And then all these ideas started coming to my mind. Like, you know what? This is like, the old Speed Racer cartoon, because here's the actual Speed Racer cars. I found those. Like, this would be a cool idea. Oh, and I'm from Daytona, NASCAR. It's in our blood. We could talk about racing. I think I know some. I mean, what a big fan, but I
It's just our left turn.
Go fast, turn left. And found out, I think it's Bristol Speedway, they actually turn right.
Oh.
Yeah. I was shocked.
Wow. I thought all American NASCAR was just left turns.
No, they actually turn right. The stock cars. Bristol Speedway, I think, has some right turn in it. And then, of course, there's the 24 Hours of Daytona. That's like, country Indy 500. I mean, you've got cars that look like a cross between stock car and Formula. They're all touring. They look really cool. Kind of like Herbie goes to... what was it? Herbie goes to Monaco.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I was a huge fan of Formula One, more than I was of NASCAR.
Okay.
And I'm like, wait, Mario Andretti. I remember names. Richard Petty, Earnhardt Sr., Fireball Roberts, all these things. Like, wow, I'm a bigger race fan than I thought. And I just started writing. I'm like, well, what am I going to write about? And then I started putting my life experience into one of the characters, because I had one teacher say, Eric, just write what you know. I'm like, well, Mr. Stump, excuse me, Dr. Stump, I don't know much because I haven't lived long enough to do anything. He goes, well, fine, make it up.
Okay.
You want me to make stuff up? Okay. So I did. I was making up all kinds of stuff. And I drew on that experience from 10th grade English to just make something up. And then it's like everything that was part of my life became a part of the story in the book. I'm like, so that's how they do it. And I started writing this story, a brief story. My first book is called Mission Racers WXGP Genesis. Get it? Genesis, my first book.
That was clever.
That's the best pun I'm going to have tonight. But it was my beginning. And the characters in there, I believe they're very relatable. And I found a way to just tell the story of just racing from a guy's perspective who is somewhat of a missionary. And he finds out, the backstory is he has parents who did not raise him because they were deceased somewhere between, I guess, 3, 4, 5 years old, and he was a ward of the state. But as he finds a cousin in Daytona, as a matter of fact, he gets to know more of his family. And he realizes this passion that he has, he got it from his parents because his cousin knew of his parents from his parents, and they were missionaries, but not just any missionary. They kind of had a Racer X style background, except for who they worked for was an organization that wanted to stay secret, but they did mission work in areas where, well, if they knew you were Christian, they'd probably have you killed. So they kind of did things in secret. This book. Well, thank you. Mission Racers WXGP, Genesis. And then the follow-up, Mission Racers WXGP, Rise of the Black Tiger. We'll get into that another time. But, yes, they're on not eBay, they're on Amazon, and they're all ebooks right now. So
okay.
I'm a self-published indie author. My wife is my editor-in-chief, and she's very good at editing. She actually devours books. I've learned quite a bit. Now, book 3 is still sitting on this computer as we speak, and been waiting for me to finish the last 3 chapters for how long, Chad? When did we meet?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how long has it been? My goodness.
Yeah, book 3 was interrupted with a new job.
That happens.
At the place where I met Chad.
Yeah. And well, Eric, I'll find that link and I'll throw that in our show notes. That way, our listeners, if they're interested with a kind of a speed racer, missionary work. I like it. It sounds like my kind of thing. I'm not huge into racing, but I feel like it's probably fast paced and action filled. So
there's more than racing to it.
Yeah, we'll make sure that our listeners get at least a link, and hopefully they'll check out your book. That's so cool.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Who'd have thought, Justin, who thought that we would be learning that there is a NASCAR track where you turn right?
I never knew. That breaks so many rules. I promise. I feel like a driver's going to show up one day and he's going to crash just because he forgot which way he was going. So... Are you sure that I was driving the course in reverse? Like maybe it's just one of those. It's like it's like Super Mario Kart where it's like a mirror and you just do it backwards.
Let's switch gears a little bit. For those of you who are listening on audio, I really would recommend you come over to our YouTube channel and catch it on video, because if you do that, you will notice Eric looks a little bit different than Justin and I do.
Just a little.
Just a little. And so since this is a podcast for dads by dads about dad stuff,
we're a movement for all dads.
A movement for all dads. There we are. There we are.
Sorry, Joby, stole that one.
Oh, all good. All dads. Yeah. So Eric, talk to us about your experiences as a dad.
Well, there are so many. As I said, I've got a daughter who's 16 and a son who just turned 12, and we have a basic philosophy in our family, which is be involved. I've always wanted to make certain, as a father in this environment, that I was involved with my children. Um, Mentioning martial arts earlier, us getting into martial arts was by design as well. I've always wanted my daughter and my son to be able to protect themselves. And not only that, but to be able to have that confidence that you get from just training, what you learn from the work you put into something and you get out of what you put in. They've learned that. Like right now, my daughter is pretty much a straight A student and already receiving letters from colleges, including most recently the Naval Academy. And she's only in 10th grade. Yes. So being involved with them has been pretty much all encompassing, that what we do, just like another parent, you kind of plan your life, not around the children, but to include the children in your life. Because I can't stop doing the normal husband and dad work because I have to be the provider as well. But when we have time together, we spend it in true quality. Like we used to go out to eat and think, why are we always going out to eat? Why shouldn't we cook? And then we come home and we cook. And then when one person was done eating, they get to go right back to their room, do their homework, or get back on the computer, do whatever else they're going to do. One person's reading a book, the other person is in the kitchen still cleaning up, and the other person watching TV. I mean, that's not quality time. That's just time in proximity.
Yeah.
So we realized we need to go out. We need to do something outside the house where we have no other choice but to be a captive audience in a small booth and let somebody else come give us some food. Or go to Taekwondo together. We could suffer and sweat and blood and tears and have people beat us up, and we'll just, bond that way. Oh yeah, and pray too.
And pray too.
Pretty much that's our day.
You're a Roman soldier.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's the day in the life of the Davis family. We do love to vacation together. We actually get along. I mean, we don't, well, I won't say we don't get each other's nerves. I know I have a teenager and soon to have two teenagers. So I know I'm a dad who says dad puns, jokes, and tickles. So I know I'm going to get on somebody's nerves eventually. But the funny thing is, even during this pandemic, being a godly man, following God's way as best as I possibly can, because I'm not perfect. I'm, like Paul said, of all the sinners, I'm chief most. Yeah, me too. But doing the best that you can, I have seen God's work in our lives in the most trying of times. And I thank God every day that I've had this ability or this opportunity to be with my kids and my wife, just even in the mundane things. I mean, my son and I, we've done this podcast, so we'll call it podcast, but it's not really podcast. The videos, my daughter and my wife have done voices for some of the videos. And it's awesome. Really been fun. Oh yeah, all of this I did because I want my kids to have something. In my mind, I'm not just making a hobby into a business. I'm hoping that this business becomes more than just the hobby for myself, but it's something I can pass on to the kids. And we've got three different lines of the business. I mean, my hobby portion in the books, I lump those all together, the videos, the books, and all the story aspect. And then there's the health coaching. And then there's my little, Kenobi. Sorry, that's my little Jedi coming up. It's time for his treat, I see. One moment. One of y'all get him his treat, please?
Dad, it's time.
Yes, my dog can tell time. I mean, he's a Jedi named Kenobi. But yeah, all of that we have done has brought us together. And I know it sounds corny, but I'm corny. I mean, I know I am. I'm the biggest cornball there is. It's like I was made for dad jokes. Granted, I didn't have one for you, and I apologize, but
it's okay.
I will come up with something. But it has been the most enriching thing in my life. And I don't mean to be punny or cliche, but when you're pouring your life into someone that looks just like you, and then you see them utilize it, or you find that they have this other quality that you didn't have, and then you go back and forth with your wife saying, "Where'd you get that from?" That's your dad's side. No, that's your mother's side. And my daughter would say, no, Dad, you were just like that, weren't you? I know you were. No, I was an angel. Conversations. It's like, it just, you spend time, even in the corniest things. And I cannot really explain it anymore. It's like the basic and simple seems to be the most treasured.
Hmm. So you were talking, kind of joking about, that's from your dad's side, that's from your mom's side, but like, so a lot of what you're talking about, like, if I were to sum that up, like, you're just a very, and I know some of this also just by, us getting to know each other in the past, but you're a very present uh, dad, right?
Yes.
Um, you talk about, hey, we do this stuff together, we do taekwondo together. He's like, that's kind of life for us, right? And so I'm wondering, like, where did that come from? Is that influence from your own parents, or is that just something that you and your wife decided that was kind of how you wanted to parent? How did that come about? Because I know we have a lot of people. We've had a few guests on that are aspiring dads. They hope to be dad one day, and we've got old gray beards like myself who already have kids.
Flowery
And
Wisdom.
shades.
but but where would you say that for you that comes from?
Now you want an answer that has so many tendrils to explain.
Oh.
It's deep. Uh, Coming from a house where my parents were married for 17 years, and then I come along and 5 years into their divorce due to
Mm.
me having a half sister who's older than me, younger than my brother,
Okay.
and growing up from that, you would think that I would not have enough example, but I grew up at a different time where we did have community.
Hmm.
Mm.
Think of the front porch. Have
Oh
you all
yeah.
ever seen houses with front porches?
I have.
Have you seen people sitting out on the front porch of those houses?
Not in my generation.
Less and less as time
In,
goes on now.
in my day, people sat on those front porches. The old lady across the street, she wasn't just being nosy. She was keeping an eye on all the kids playing outside. Because,
Hmm.
back then, we were
Kids
told
playing
to go
outside.
outside. Yes,
That was
we
normal.
did that. Yes.
I
Wow,
did
yeah.
But
play outside.
yeah, you
Same.
knew
Yeah.
who people were. And likewise, the little old lady sitting on the porch, guess what? The old man that came home, he was like a father figure. Each and every one of those fathers were there. We had true community. And back then, the church was the center, the focus of our community. And I always had father figures. I felt like the black sheep of the whole community because, my father stepped out, but all the others were married. I had people
Hmm.
stepping up saying, Eric, you need to do this, you need to do that, giving me all the fatherly advice. Even my own father, granted, whatever happened between him and my mother was between them, but he was still there. Sometimes
Yeah.
he's a couple of feet behind, but he's like, I'm still watching you. You will do this. I will be there all the way through. And when I look back, like, yeah, he was there. Granted, I want him in the house, but in an era where divorce is more in by numbers, like 60 some odd percent than people staying married, you have to realize we survived something, but through that, what we survived is because of the community. And unfortunately, those communities don't exist like they used to. There's a different day and people are not together. So when I look at what's going on out there, I look at those who had family, my brother included. He and his wife are going to be celebrating their 40th year anniversary together.
Wow.
Wow.
The youngest child of four is going to be 32 or 33. I forgot. Don't tell them that. And they hosted Easter dinner this week, and they literally look like newlyweds. Always have for 40 years. And I kept thinking, even when I was in high school, because they got married when I was in fifth grade, I want a family like that. Now, my brother, you think I'm corny? My brother's corny. I mean, very corny. But he was always present. And when I looked at all the families in my neighborhood, their fathers were present. I mean, fathers teaching their sons about mechanics, teaching them about electronics, teaching them about carpentry. And those were people in my neighborhood, mechanics, carpentry, masonry, and electronics. And they just taught their children, not that they want their child to do what they were doing, but because you were passing along something no one can take from you. And that was time and knowledge spent teaching that child, showing and exemplifying what you should be, man, a father to a son, what a man should be, showing your daughter, father to daughter, how a man should be towards your a young lady. And then you get that trust built. So when you're able to have those harder, deeper, more contentious conversations, you can have it with them and they will listen, as opposed to look at you like, yeah, give you lip service and go about what they're going to do. You have built that time with them. I've known that. When I see what's going on in the world today with absentee parenting, we see the difference. We see what did not work. And I'm 50. I turned 50 this year. We have seen the generation of what would we call them, Chad? The participation award winners.
Oh, yeah.
They are in the workforce now.
Yeah.
They are in the workforce, and some of them are at my level and want to be higher. And how they react or interact with others is not the same the way we did. And when I look at my children, I say, look, I have a lot to teach you, more so now than ever I thought before, because you're going to go into a world that's foreign to me. So I have to spend that time with you. And to get on back in the pulpit, we are 2022 years away from Jesus' first departure from earth. He's a whole lot closer to coming back now. We spent time in Revelations. I think we got another chapter left before we finish our personal study Revelation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it scares my daughter, but we keep telling them, we live in these times. I keep saying, what chapter of Revelation are we living in today? I've got so much to tell you. And I think that's also why we do Yesha Ministries, because when you know something is about to happen and you know the outcome of it, you want to tell those you love. You want to tell those you don't even know you love yet. Because you're going to have to love them all, because that's a commandment. You just need to tell them, because we have an enemy out there who's literally looking to devour our children and us. And after the story my daughter told me today at her school, it's a wonder I haven't pulled my hair out. Never mind.
Oh, man. So I was wondering, to kind of pull on that thread a little bit.
Pulling that.
Careful, he doesn't have any left.
Figuratively, of course. So Eric, one thing that, I would say the majority of our listeners are white. And I'm white.
No.
Yeah. It's not just a filter.
Mine's a filter, Eric. I actually have a little bit of tan in here from being outside. No, I'm just kidding.
But and as much as you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to know, like, maybe if you could talk about, some of the experience as being, an African American father. Maybe some things that people who, who are more majority, skin color may not get, may not have the experience of, right? Being, you being, a minority, and I know you hail from Daytona. I don't know which one of y'all that was.
That was Eric. I just want to know why Chad said it like Daytona.
Daytona.
There's a joke there.
Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, like, I think that's something that our listeners would really like to hear a little bit about, is just kind of some of that experience, challenges, whatever, just things that a lot of us may just take for granted or not realize is really happening out there.
Well, so. You said you wanted this down to 55 minutes with a little bit of overtime. You have very much stepped onto a landfill of landmines
Here
on
comes
that
the
topic.
OT.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to tell you now. Justin, I don't know if Chad has told you, we've had these discussions before.
Okay.
We
Oh,
used to go for
absolutely.
long walks around the building at our former job
Okay.
and have some deep conversations. So this is
Love-
nothing new for us.
I love to hear it, and I do want to thank you for being. I know I was hearing Chad introduce that part, and I was like, 'cause I know the climate we live in. So Eric, thank you for being.
And this was going so well.
Cancel culture is coming. No, but thank you for being so cordial and oh yes, say it. I'll bleep it.
I don't give a crap about cancel culture.
Dang it!
Kiss
I
my
love
grits.
Ooh,
Well, where do I start with this one?
it's my grass.
Take a deep breath. Okay, so when it comes to
Sorry.
when it comes to the community, and I kind of led y'all down that path, that's kind of what I say about community. Being a Black father in the recent couple of years, where you have quite a bit of turmoil, the media is nothing more than a propaganda machine on either side. If you truly knew the facts of how many, and I'll go with, and don't slam me in the comments if y'all see this. I don't remember everybody's name. Floyd.
Yes.
Okay. When that happened, it is so easy to know you're Black. It is so easy to jump into your feelings and immediately be ruled by your feelings when you see that imagery. But it takes a mature, wise person to stop and realize how you got this information, where it's coming from, how much of it is factual in relevance to the racial aspect, or is it a criminal aspect? Crime is crime regardless of the person involved. It's still a crime. When you have a history in the country of racism, and let's be clear, there's racism all over the world.
For sure.
And let me be clear about this. Now, Chad knows that my wife is from Kenya. My wife is African. She has told me stories that there is racism there too. Call it by another name. Call it tribalism.
Sure.
All over. So this is nothing new to the United States. Slavery is nothing new to the United States. They've had it all over the world. It still continues today. People don't know it. Now, I say all that so we can set the playing field. When it comes to living in a world where most people get their news from social media, they don't do their own research, they're not taught in schools to critically think like we were in the 80s. They are told what to think and embody emotional responses instead of a thought-provoking response after consideration. That is a bad mixture to control a crowd to do what you want. That is how it has been in this whole country, not just for Blacks, but for everyone. Your reaction, it may be different because of whatever cultural background you have. But when you look at it, if you were to do the facts and to understand what the actual rate of homicides are, it will shock you if you don't know. I'm not going to quote them because I don't have them up in front of me right now, but it's not what the majority of people want to believe it is, or they want you to believe it is, but it's sensationalized. Every crime is still a crime. Some crimes have been sensationalized and used to promote narratives that some people don't even realize they're being controlled by. When I look outside, and let me go back. When I think about racism in today, I think about what my parents taught me. My parents are war babies. They grew up in the South. My father Pensacola, which might as well be Southern Alabama, Mississippi, and my mother in Daytona. Technically, Florida's not the South, but we have a lot of Southern mentality. And they grew up during real bad racism.
Yes.
This is nothing. This is nothing compared to what they went through. And even they did not raise me to hate people of another color. And they taught me better. We are still children of God. We are to love. And yes, it's not just words. We are to. My mother taught me a few things, and my father. One, everyone that looks like me is not for me. And everyone that does not look like me is against me.
Oh, yeah.
When you realize that, you realize it opens up your mind a little bit to say, well, let me think about what's really going on. All of these things that I'm saying now, and I'm flying over the 50,000 foot level because this is a extremely deep topic. And right now, I think I've told Chad this, there is internal conversations in the community. And that's the term being used for the Black community, because that word community is it's not a community. We're a population. We have a problem. If you look at this country and how, and it's, forgive me if I'm all over the place because that's how deep this topic is. And we literally just flew off into the deep end.
We did.
So much has happened in the last 100 years in this country, racially speaking, that we are literally just, segregation ended a couple years before I was born. And in those, I'm 50 now, so those 50 some odd years, we've gone from segregation to about what, I'm guessing 10% or more interracial marriages when they were once illegal less than 50 years ago or less than 60 years ago. Then there's the Loving case, which is the groundbreaking case. And now when you look at social media and the media in general, you can see all kinds of racially ambiguous children, like, and they're older. It's like, you aren't Black. You aren't Black. You definitely aren't white. You aren't Spanish because your last name is Irish. And you start thinking, you know what? I'm Irish too. I shouldn't tell you that, but I don't look Irish, but my grandfather, well, that's another story there. When you realize we've got a lot more in common than we have not in common, you can stop and think. But if no one's telling you you have more in common than not, it's easy to divide. Yet they sit here and teach us the easiest way to fight your enemies is divide and conquer. We are someone's enemy because that's all that was been done is dividing. We are not going to get where we need to go if we don't get on one accord. And that was the biggest division. And that was in the church. The church was divided. The church was our, excuse me, I hate to use the term, our safe space. The church was our community. The church was the cornerstone of our community. That was when we learned how to be a community. That was where we took communion. When they took God out of the schools, when they hit the Black church with, or the Black community with all of the socialized systems of, what's it called? Food stamp programs,
welfare and
welfare, thank you.
Okay.
The welfare programs, the war on drugs, the incarceration rate, and then the media, Hollywood media, putting out a image that non-Black people were telling Black people what their image is. And you can do research on this. There were comedians who said this. See, I love comedians. The good was from the 80s, because when they talked to you, you had to pay attention to what they were saying because they couldn't tell you straight. George Carlin was one. There's a movie called Hollywood Shuffle that's making its round in the community now, because when they talk about what Hollywood understood, what Hollywood promoted the image of Black folks to be versus what we are, that is not us. What you're seeing in Hollywood, that's not Black community. That is a fabricated image by Hollywood. When we were listening to rap music had nothing to do with violence. It was political at most, but it was about the rhyme. It was about, the rhythm. It was fun. It was dancey. It was non-offensive. Granted, 1987 comes around and Two Live Crew comes in, and there's a groundbreaking case where now we have parental advisory lyrics, thanks to Dan Quayle's wife. And then we go straight from 1988 to early 90s gangster rap. Well, everyone's like, well, what happened to the Will Smith raps of the world when it was nice and clean and friendly? Heavy D, the Fat Boys. You all know who I'm talking about?
I do.
I don't.
Thank you.
I'm too young.
We're going 80s.
I do know Will Smith because of Bel Air. So
yes. Well,
he was also a rapper.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, that's why I'm aware of. Yeah, he raps the intro to Fresh Prince. So
yes. Well, back then, rap was fun and dancey, and yes, it got a lot of sexual suggestivity in it.
All music does.
Yes, when you realize some of the lyrics of those songs from the 50s and you get an understanding of what they truly mean, there's nothing different. My God, there's nothing under the sun. But when it changed to a more degrading over sexualization of the Black women, and then the felonious activity attributed to Black males through gangster rap, and then it put enmity between the Black community and the cops. And I'm thinking, how do we have this? Granted, yes, there have been cases. Yes, there are people who have done horrible things in authority positions. But if it were as numerous as a George Floyd case, we would be at war.
That's fair. That's true.
And the reason why I'm seeing it from my perspective, I grew up knowing the chief of police in Daytona. I went to school with his son. He knows me by name. He still knows me by name today. He's all retired now. My grandmother, I didn't realize, worked for the police station with some of the people who were retired cops now. I know several Black cops in Daytona. Well, they're now retired because, we're old. And I'm thinking, have you seen this? And they would say, well, yeah, Eric, we've seen a little bit of racism. And I say a little bit compared to, the 60s and 50s. But it's not at a level of wanting to kill you because you're Black. And then it's not a major community issue where it was, well, you have an issue with the cop. Why was the cop talking to you? We are taking the side of the cop at that time because, he's a law enforcement. He's there. So we're looking at the one who's, being looked at. Did you do something? No, I was just standing here. Where? There. You mean in that empty lot? Yeah. By the sign. Yeah. That says no loitering. Yeah. What's your point? Well,
that's called loitering.
You're loitering. You shouldn't stand there. You don't have a right to be there. That's private property. There's no fence there. Cop came, told you to leave. Now you're in an argument with an attitude. Well, what did your dad say? Well, my dad's not in the house. Okay. If it were me, my dad be whooping my tail all the way down to the police station and said, well, you do what you have to do with him. If he was breaking law, he's breaking the law. And then when he gets done, I'm going to whoop his butt. Those are the words my parents told me. Those are not the words I'm believing being told to some children nowadays because their behavior is not the same. I am not one who is going to side holistically on one or the other. I do believe you need to investigate every potential issue because media cannot be trusted. Even if they are meaning well, they cannot be trusted because even if they give you everything they know up front, you're still missing pieces. By tomorrow, that story is another story away. So where are the pieces? You're still left to draw your own conclusions. And these are not the Walter Cronkite news where they say, this is all we know, and we admit this is all we know, but we'll give you as much as we can. You draw your own conclusion. We don't have that luxury anymore. We don't even do what we need to do. We need to go out and say, what's going on? What's the truth? Was there an issue? Did the cop have right? Did you act in accordance with the law? Because the law is on his side. The gun is on his belt. We may not like the verdict. We may not like the outcome, but we need to survive. You want to go home. Better to go home and get a lawyer and fight the law with the law than to go on social media while someone's marching up and down the street and we're going to a funeral for you. The media has put so much enmity between law enforcement and certain communities where they're more than likely to pull the trigger than on the gun to save themselves because they already know they're going to be crucified. And we have a belief, so are we. Well, not me personally, but in general, we believe we're going to be crucified. Well, if both sides believe they're going to be crucified no matter what they do, what do they have to lose? So all hell is going to break loose on either side. And when one side goes there, the next side is going to escalate, even if for nothing more than to save their own life or someone else. So when I look at our community and what that means being Black, just that alone has preoccupied our existence. I have tried to set that aside for my son to say, Miles, you're a Black male. You will always be looked at differently than any other male because the society we live in has been trained. No matter what people say, even when they say, well, I don't see color. Yes, you do. We all see color. We live in a color world.
Of course.
Okay, but I don't think that way. You may not think that way, but you have lived in the same country, watching the same information we all see, even unconsciously. You may have a feeling, even if you don't act on it, you may have a feeling. And they call it unconscious biasness. Granted, that's one of those $20,000 words you learn at those liberal arts schools, I guess. Sorry, I'm very conservative.
I love it.
But when you actually, there are truth behind a lot of the terms. You are trained to react one way. And the way the media is, you're being trained that way. They teach you on the fear. Oh, I should be yelling and screaming right now. Wait a minute. Just because the guy held up his arm, I should be yelling and screaming. Maybe he's stretching. But he's holding something. Okay, yeah, he's holding something. He's not pointing it at me. Or is he? Well, wherever it is, I'm now conditioned by society to react a certain way. Now, that's an extreme example. But what if it's just the words that he said? What if it's how he dresses? What if it's how she dresses? We have a, what do they call it? I heard it recently and I hear it frequently. We have a cultural image that has been put on us. And being Black, we are looked at as leaders of style, regardless of who the creator of the style is. We've been known to take it, make it look cooler. And then the controversy of, let's go with Tommy Hilfiger. I don't know if you even know about the Tommy Hilfiger controversy. Kind of along the same lines of what people said, Elvis Presley said about Black folk. And the rumor was Elvis said only thing a Black person do for him was shine his shoes and buy his records. Years later, they said Elvis never said that. Elvis had nothing but respect for Black community. He learned to sing in the Black church, and he admitted that's where he learned to sing. He loved that style of music, even though they credited him with being the king of rock and roll, who was really Chuck Berry originally. These little things that permeate the culture stick with people. The negativity, unfortunately, sticks with people more than the positiveness. So we have to combat that negativity. How do we do that? Well, with God, of course. But that was been targeted also. Now we've got churches filled with people who are there for other reasons, and those who really need to be in church, like the men in the Black community, the Black men aren't in the church. Those ones that should be, and they're not in it for various reasons. But the people in the church are mostly the women and the children, because they are catering to a feminist ideology even in the church. Case in point, look at Mother's Day versus Father's Day at church. Next to Christmas and Easter, Mother's Day packs the church.
True.
Father's Day, practically a ghost town.
You're in Daytona.
I'm talking everywhere, even Daytona. But when you think about where we were attacked, people want to talk about the symptoms, but the root of it was, think about the community. The Black community were the most married people per capita up until the 50s and 60s, the 60s. And we were still going, well, I wasn't born, they were still going through the worst times of being Black, post-slavery, but they were the most married. They were in the church. They were a community. They had so much that people who looked at the Black community, oh, these are models for a community. And that's what they were. I mean, you've heard the term when when the white community catches a cold, the Black community catches the flu, because we're smaller. We're literally a subset of this country and shrinking. I mean, I think we're the smallest minority group now. But when you want to take a sample of a culture, a sample of a country, you look at the smallest subset. I mean, we represent all aspects of existence in this country, but many times we have been corralled into groupings where we do commune, at least to a certain extent. So when you hit the bullseye and you disperse that, which is the church, where's the community going to commune? You hit them ideologically. Yes, the church building's still there. Yes, there's some people still going to church, but not like it was. The numbers of church population has been dwindling since the 80s. I've been in the church all my life. My grandmother has made certain that we were all in it. I have watched these numbers go down. I have seen the generational gaps. I'm now part of a church that I never thought I'd be. I'm in a non-denominational church. I grew up Methodist, United Methodist. We were literally Catholic light.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
Yes, you were.
Literally.
Robes and everything.
True.
Yes, I mean Catholic light. Don't go into that, but
So
We're
Go
gonna need to
ahead.
have Eric
Oh, no.
on for a sequel episode. There's just so much here to unpack. Like I had a question like 8 minutes ago about like social media and stuff, and now we're over here, and I could talk. Wow.
yeah. Eric, I really want to thank you for sharing some of that, because as you and I got to know each other as we were working together, like you said, kind of taking these walks and, and having these water cooler chats and that kind of stuff.
That's deeper than a water cooler chat, brother.
Yeah. We would, all these things going on. I mean, you referenced George Floyd and things that were happening during that time. Of course, what's happening on the news, like you said. They're really seeking to divide people, and if it bleeds, it leads. That whole dynamic that's going on. But I remember I would come in and you, and there were a couple other guys, Bernard and Tim, and we would talk, and you guys would put up with some of my silly, stupid questions, right? But it was like, hey, here's what I'm hearing. I would love to have your perspective, and not asking you to speak on behalf of the African American community, but just to be able to say, hey, where does this land on you? Like, tell me your perspective, because, here's what I am seeing as, a Christian white man. But what can you tell me from your perspective? And again, not asking you to speak on behalf of an entire community, but just, hey, how does this thing land on you? And really leading with a question, instead of coming in and like me trying to get you to, believe a certain thing about an agenda or something, right? But just really want. And so I really, and I know it's kind of an awkward start, but I really appreciate you sharing, because I really feel like when you put a face to it, right? When you put flesh on it, and you can really hear from someone's experience. It's like, oh, so people believe this way. Oh, I never thought about that. And so I really, yeah, again, I really appreciate you kind of getting a little vulnerable and sharing with us because, uh, you know,
My
I
pleasure.
think when we can learn from each other, it's a good thing.
Well,
But
it unifies. I mean,
It
it
does.
does.
Eric was talking about the divisive nature of our nation, and I just kept coming back to the thought that the easiest way to control people is when you isolate them, right? And I believe wholeheartedly God built us for community, and so yeah, it's through learning that we then unify and we become stronger, and we can then fight back against the enemy, however you choose to define said enemy, whether it's political, spiritual, physical, but yeah.
Yeah, so while we're on the topic
Oh,
of light and dark,
oh yes, I've been
I can
waiting.
hear the theme song for Darth Vader now.
Oh, it's the Imperial March.
I thought maybe so Eric, you are a double threat in that you love both Star Wars and Star Trek. So we would
Whew.
be doing our fans and our listeners a disservice if we did not spend at least a couple minutes,
I hope
and
they
I know
make
it's
it this
probably going to be
far.
more than a couple minutes, talking about the star things.
Well, let me get my nerd persona back on.
There we go. The Reverend
All
is
right.
out, and
The
the nerd is in.
That's my benediction. All right.
Oh, it hurts my heart, but I accept it. I am not a Trekkie. I am not anti-Trek. I enjoyed the J.J. Abrams films, but I did not grow up watching the TV shows my grandfather did, so I only saw whatever he had playing on in the background. But I am a huge Star Wars fan. So
Yes.
I will open with, what of the movies, which is your favorite Star Wars movie? And I will allow you to include the Star Wars stories, Solo and Rogue One. Those are totally acceptable.
Yeah. I don't know about Solo. I'm. No.
Oh,
I knew we were
No.
friends. I just knew it.
How he got his name, that was cheesy
okay, that
beyond
was that
cheesy.
was that was super cheesy.
And yes, he liberated Chewie. So that's how they did meet. And the Kessel Run, the
That
minds of
felt a
Kessel.
little,
I mean, I'm still waiting for Kip Duron to show up. If you know about Kip Duron, he literally was what Rey is supposed to be. So Kip was not a Palpatine. Kip was literally another convergence of the Force, if you want to use that terminology, because I don't think Timothy Zahn used that terminology. But Kip Duron literally was the actual level of Star Killer.
Oh,
when Luke Skywalker was supposed to be Star Killer.
Right.
So hence the Star Killer base name. But my favorite movie, wow. I'm going to have to go with the nostalgia of episode 4 because when I know where I was when the movie came out, I was 7 years old. And here's an odd little tidbit. I was 10 minutes late to the movie because my godmother took me to see it because I was too afraid to go watch it with my brother and sister. And then they came back and said how great it was. I'm like, okay, I want to go see it now. We were late. So I missed the first 10 minutes. Now, back then, if you missed that, you could stay in the theater until it starts again. We just told the people that we were going to do this. No worries. Just, stick around. Once you see what you need, you can feel free to leave. Well, we did. And we watched everything, stayed a little bit longer. I'm all up into the cantina scene. And I will never, ever forget this moment. Some people think I'm crazy, but during the cantina scene,
I swear, if he says Greedo shot first, I'm going to walk out of this podcast.
Those words will never come out of my mouth. Never. Han shot first.
Amen.
Anyway, this has nothing to do with Han or Greedo. There was an alien that had a drink. And I thought this was the weirdest thing because I've seen a lot of weird sci-fi from the 60s and 70s, but this was the weirdest. Ironically, very basic. An alien at the bar took his drink, lifted up, poured it into this little crater orifice into his head, as that's how he drank it. And I'm looking like, why?
I am
But
literally
it's
about to like
stuck with me.
to watch A New Hope now after this.
Not in
Just
there.
it's not in the digital.
It's not in there. I met
Oh no, where
someone
is it?
in yeah, I met someone in the mid 90s who worked in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever heard of a movie called a 80s B-rated horror movie called Biohazard?
No, that one I've
No.
not heard of.
Chad, I think I've told you so before. Google Biohazard 1 and 2. Well, the
Okay.
guy who was in the suit for Biohazard Monster was the manager of this place called Suncoast Video. Back when you would go and buy movies, not rent, you actually buy the VHS.
Yes.
I was heavily into my anime days, and he was telling me, we got to talking, and we got to know each other over the years. Interesting guy, very interesting, Hollywood type. We got to talking, and I told him about that little scene, and he and his co-worker said, yes, it was in there, but George Lucas said it was a little too graphic, so he cut it. I'm like, so I'm not crazy.
Wait,
So-
so even on the VH, so I still have the special edition VHS copies where it's the like 11-minute long George Lucas interview before the movie actually starts. And yes, I know I'm aware that I'm young and from a generation that's all digital. I do make my friends a little agitated when they help me move because I have a box that's labeled DVDs and one labeled CDs and books. Like I like the physical things. So when my parents, I think I was moving out and my brothers had moved away and I was like, yeah, the special edition original trilogy Star Wars, mine. Like, so I still have them. They still work to my knowledge. I just don't have a VHS player. And I'm sure finding one now is like, a rarity. But so you're telling me that even in that special edition VHS, if I were to turn it in and find the cantina scene, I can't even find it then?
I don't think it's in there, but if you find it in that edition, please let me know.
I will.
Screenshot it with your camera phone because I would love to see it. Because
Might be years from now, but
yeah,
Wow.
I've talked to very few people who remember that, and others like I think you confuse it with another sci-fi. It's like, no, not at that age because there's very few sci-fi I was watching outside of Star Trek and Buck Rogers. Star Wars was it.
Yep.
So
A New
that's going to be
Hope.
my favorite for the nostalgia. But I love too many movies and shows that are too iconic, including the books. I mean, Timothy
Yes.
Zahn. I mean,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
2 trilogies that he wrote should have been what we picked up in the movies.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm off my soapbox.
So Justin,
Huh.
we have been out nerded.
I've definitely met my match, and if not greater. Yeah,
Eric,
yeah.
I am
Oh, I
handing
thank you.
I am handing through the video participation trophy for nerdiest.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I'll have to ask Shauna if she remembers that scene. Now she was little. I think, yeah, Eric, you're a few years older than Shauna is. But I'll have to ask her when she saw it if she remembers that. Because that would be an iconic scene because you're like, wait, I've never seen somebody drink like this
That
before.
is unique. That
you
is
know?
unique. Chad,
So,
were you able to watch it in theaters when it came out? The original?
Were you born?
No, it was it 79?
77.
77.
77.
Okay, so no, I was not alive.
Oh.
Shauna was 3.
Okay. Okay.
But I mean, she grew up on it, right? I didn't really get into Star Wars until I was much older, but she was into it even as a little kid. So I will have to ask her and report back.
Yeah. Because I will say I am envious of like those who got to watch them as they came out in theaters. I didn't get the chance to even watch. So Phantom Menace through Revenge of the Sith came out during my childhood, but just because of the way we actually held to the, if a movie is given a certain rating and you fall within a certain category, we abide by the rating and therefore we did not watch.
What?
Nor were we major theater goers. Yeah. So to the parent out there who was like, I'm gonna take my child to Deadpool and then got mad and tweeted at them like,
man.
lady, it's rated R. Your 7-year-old should not watch that. Anyway, so
Yeah.
don't
Don't go see Deadpool, and don't don't turn on the station for Kanye, even if you're playing the Christian album. Like, you're gonna hear, grandma's gonna hear some stuff, and she's gonna fall out of her chair.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I think I was 9 or 10 when Revenge of the Sith came out, and because that one was PG-13, and yes, I do know every rating for the Star Wars films. I was not allowed. We didn't go to theaters to watch it, but I did watch. So for me, I think my first Star Wars in theater experience was unfortunately The Force Awakens. And while there was definitely
Oh wow, okay.
a nostalgia hit, well, I mean, that was for me, like I had to wait a long time for it. So there was this nostalgia of like, ooh, it felt like episode 4. But then because Eric, I was a huge fan of all the books and things, I walked out of that theater raging. I mean, I was tearing at new ones. I was mad at Disney.
Yeah.
My friends and I sat, we went to like the 1 a.m. showing. We got out at like 3. We were in the parking lot till 5, debating and arguing with each other over whether or not it was a good movie based on the things that we knew prior.
I think Chad talked me off the limb one time at work.
Eric, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
I will say this: Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are some saving graces for Disney. The Mandalorian, The Clone Wars, Bad Batch, and even Book of Boba Fett, despite being, in my opinion, a touch weaker, it was definitely like a Mando pit stop, as it were.
Yeah.
Which I think Filoni came out and said, he was like, guys, Boba Fett's not its own thing. It's a chapter inside of Mando, so you have to treat it. And when you see it like
we all
that,
see that.
you're like, oh, okay.
Well, when you look at the stories, Boba Fett was never supposed to be a individual topical movie. It was supposed to have been tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, like the book. It's cool. Okay. That was all the bounty hunters, not just Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Because I would like to see more about IG-88, Dengar, and
Heck
Bosk.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the original canon that Dengar was the one who helped Boba get back out of the Sarlacc pit. Like Boba shot out, and Dengar just happened to be. Why Dengar was walking by on Tatooine, I have no idea. But there he is, and hey, look, because Boba Fett and helped him out. So.
Yeah, and Aura Singh pretty much trained him as he was a child.
Oh, Aura Singh. You have seen her little sneaky cameo in Phantom Menace, right?
Uh-huh.
That was a clever Lucas drop in there. I was happy with. Oh yeah, that's a good one. I really wish we'd get a Quinlan Voss.
That would be interesting. It's like, did we get a Native American Jedi? That's pretty cool.
Reeling y'all back in.
Yeah. I also want a Darth Revan. If we could get, that's my last plug. Anything Darth Revan.
I want to see anything Old Republic, but if they don't do it like the video game
or the books,
because
Darth Bane comes after the Old Republic video games, but that trilogy was so good. Yeah, and he's canon. Clone Wars. Dave Filoni really snuck him in at the last second.
And I gotta say, at least they brought Thrawn into canon, but he's out of time. Thrawn was not at this time.
That's true.
Thrawn was still out on the outer rim, literally looking for what the Emperor was fearing. And we still don't get that now.
Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Sorry, Chad.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Chad.
He doesn't understand any of this.
We'll go back to...
I know Thrawn.
But you don't know the Yuuzhan Vong, and they should terrify you.
No, I don't know. There are a lot of names y'all threw out that me plus every single one of our listeners don't know of. Shauna may be the exception, but that's why
we should educate them.
That's why I had my fishing rod out, and I was reeling y'all back
Voss
in.
Is this dope?
Now you're going back into it.
I'm going to teach you. So he's during the Republic. He has, I think, a yellow and a green lightsaber, right? And he's got like face paint. So like Eric said, he's Native American, but he's got dreadlocks. He basically is like, he's what Qui-Gon Jinn should have done, where he's like, look, I'm light side, but also you can suck it, Jedi Order. Like, he just does his own thing, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, don't be talking trash about Qui-Gon, right? He taught Yoda how to live on.
I was never mad about Qui-Gon. I'm just saying it's what he should have done. He should have walked away from the Order.
He didn't teach Yoda how to do that. Yoda was meditating and
also true.
Was visited by Qui-Gon.
Yeah, and Yoda asked him some questions, and Yoda learned from Qui-Gon.
Yes, yes, he did.
Oh, speaking of Star Wars things, Eric, are you a fan
Yes.
of the Lego Star Wars video games?
Video games? I have not played video games in a very long time. If it's not on my phone, I don't play it.
Okay.
I haven't had time in a very, very long time.
Does your son?
He is into Minecraft
Okay.
and something nine, not Forza, the racing game.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, he might enjoy if he's a Star Wars fan, and if he enjoys Legos. I know you enjoy Legos. Might be a fun activity for you guys together. I don't know what system you have, but it's on all of them. The
Yeah.
new Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, and
Uh-huh.
it's all 9 episodes, and it's actually been my wife and I play it. We play it together, and it is a lot of fun. So,
Oh, cool. I'll tell him
and there,
about it. See if he
there's
wants to.
also little jokes for guys like us who have seen memes, or we know that like the Han shot first and
Uh-huh.
different things like that strewn about. So it's cool.
Video games. That's a thing I have not heard about in a long,
Long
long
time.
Oh my
time.
gosh. Oh.
Oh man. So, so Eric, in addition to being a second degree black belt in Taekwondo and an author, you also have a YouTube channel
That's
where
right.
Yes.
you delve into the world of racing. Would you like
Yes.
to maybe spend a few minutes just telling people about what that's all about?
Absolutely. Honestly, it's was an idea that came from us writing the books where we thought we would do like an animated webisode comic adaptation of our story, but we just had no idea how that would happen. I kept thinking, well, maybe after we get the books going, we enter the school system, they can take their AR test with our books, and it'll be years from now. Well, it was years from we wrote the book, but I had no idea this is where we were going with it. And honestly, I'm still not there yet. This has been, as a popular YouTuber says, build it while you fly it.
Oh.
So, being that I'm wearing my flying shirt in Riddle, never not university, public school, I'm accustomed to the idea. So what I was seeing, like I was telling you guys about these guys in Hot Wheels and building tracks. And when I was just building and filming just the individual track, I started seeing more content, thinking, okay, how can I entertain my son and see if he can get involved in some engineering STEM style projects and use it as a teaching tool. I ran into some people who first, it was a guy racing marbles in sand. I think everyone knows about that one. Okay, well, there's a guy who races marbles in sand and gets millions of views. Just marbles in the sand. It's really cool. And now he's into long, even multi-level tracks. And then there are people out there who literally got into combining Hot Wheels tracks, just like the track builder system. And these are people my age and older who grew up with that same love. Some of them got into series of types of cars, racing this type of car, and then they started getting into a story like mode when you have this epic event of King of the Mountain or King of the Hill. And then you've got people sitting in cars that are modified. Modified Hot Wheels, and they give them names and call these fictitious drivers little names here and there. And I'm thinking, that's a good idea. I make Hot Wheels, the tracks, and I can make up names and tell stories and have fun. I just need some cameras, more stuff, lots of stuff. And I learned how to build stuff. And all of a sudden, I felt just in the Spider-Verse or the multiverse of madness.
Ooh.
Pick a movie, I'm in it.
Pick a movie.
And I realized, this is fun. My son loves it. I try and tell my daughter, tell your friends, because teenage girls, they can tell the whole world, and all of a sudden it's viral. She's like,
story.
Dad, sure. I told my son, and his friends will come over. They're like, "Oh, this is cool. Yeah, I like Hot Wheels." And about 5 minutes of me showing his friends what we do with it and
Hmm.
embarrassing my child and tell them go look at it, I realized you can actually tell stories. I'm literally storyboarding now. So a year ago, when we started our first video, if you look back at what it looked like then compared to now, you see a major difference. I'm nowhere near where I need to be to compete with some of these guys who are maybe trained enthusiasts and have built layouts before because they are so ornate. And then I work with everyone who's in this knows about crash racers. Crash Racers has a battery operated car. We take the car, we get rid of it. It's their track we want. Hot Wheels has a single lane, one lane. And if they have more than one lane, it's still segmented between the lanes.
Yeah.
This is open track. Just take that segmentation out, the mathematical variability, and then it's all variability, but the variations in the levels of the track, however you tack it down, it literally gives you this action and reaction of the cars moving as if someone is driving them. I don't have the mathematical ability to calculate the randomness that I watch on a daily basis. No race is the same. On the same track, and watch some of the videos. I watch the Speed Racer Casa Cristo 5000 grudge match. The last of the series, you will see something almost unheard of. Speed Racer versus Racer X versus Snake Oiler, and one of the other, I think it might have been
Snake
Cavallo.
Oiler, that's great.
Yeah, that's his name. And he's a very, very powerful racer. Literally, there is one scene where the Racer X's car, actually it's the Mach 4 when he was Rex Racer, literally jump jacks in the air, turns around backwards over an opponent and gets around him. And I'm thinking, I did nothing to this track to do this, but it was behaving like someone was driving it. And the fascination that I have with it, just the sheer mathematics of this actually happening, the probability statistics is just beyond me. But I can look and think, okay, so Rex Racer was in the car. Rex is going around the corner. He's taking turn one. Oh, and he jump jacks over an opponent. Oh, Kabbalah didn't know what hit him. And all of a sudden, now I've got a storyline that I'm telling people. I'm like, this thing is writing itself. Now, what if I can do that with my stories? And I'm working towards that. Hence the Lego coming in, because they've got characters in Lego I can actually say are, representation of my characters.
That's right.
And I can literally storyboard this. And there's tons of information out on how to do it because, like you're saying, stop motion. There's so much stop motion Lego videos out there.
Oh, tons.
And it's like, now I know people doing that, and you're probably thinking, well, Eric, what's going to set you apart from other people? The back end storybooks, which is Mission Racers, WXGP. I'm telling a story based off the only thing I know is mine. Because everyone else is doing something similar, selling a wallet, selling something else, or literally just doing it for fun. But it's fun, and that's the key thing. Having fun, writing a story, getting that creative outlet. It truly is a STEM project because I've learned woodworking, I've learned diorama modeling. I have learned things I never thought I'd learned before. Hopefully my son's picking up on these things I'm teaching.
Well, and
Sure he is.
now that everyone has kind of heard some of the stuff that goes into it, it really they should really check it out, because I think it just makes it even more fascinating. Because I remember, Eric, our friend Bernard had a car in one of your races, and
He's
so
mad.
we watched it, right? And so he was, they were doing a race, and I think he only won the third one, right? The the third leg of it, and he was so mad. But you're talking about all the all the math that goes into it and the randomness, and it was like I saw a car like turn around backwards. I saw one jump one, and it is different every time, and
Mhm.
it's pretty, and like we were talking about before we started recording. You've gotten a lot better with setting it to music and the graphics that you use and all that kind of and so it really is
Thank you.
entertaining. And if for kids, it's great. It's very kid
Yes.
friendly. And Jude, my 10-year-old, I showed it to him. He thought it was pretty cool, and I sent him a couple of your videos. Yeah, so just a little plug for that. It's great though. It really is. It's
Yeah,
cool.
Thank you.
we'll make sure your book and your YouTube are both in the show notes for this episode, so that way
Well,
it's out
thank
there and
you.
our listeners don't have to wander through the depths of YouTube to try and find you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed this. And likewise, I'll shout you guys out on my channel. You have to send me
Oh,
your
that'd be
link to
great.
your, yeah. So chat,
Yeah,
send me the link.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll do.
That's right,
So
Chad.
Yeah, one
Eric,
job.
one job. So Eric, we talked about your book. We talked
Mhm.
about your YouTube. I know we're going to be putting those links out there. Is your YouTube channel? Is that kind of the best place for people to find you, or what
Yes.
do you say? Okay.
Yes, this is the best place to find me now because that's where I do most of my work. The website for the company well, it's been put to the side when I went on to the social media, other aspects. So yeah, we'll just talk YouTube, Instagram. On YouTube, you can get me to Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
And even from the Facebook link, you should be able to get to the Amazon link for the books as well. And it's Mission Racers WXGP. You'll see a little commercial at the beginning of each and every race
Okay.
of the uploaded videos, not the shorts.
All right. Sweet. Yeah, I'll make
All
sure
right.
I'll do the legwork through your YouTube channel then to try and get all those links in our show notes.
Wow.
That way it's even easier. But that's good to know. Awesome possum.
Awesome.
All right. Eric, it's been an absolute joy to have you on. I appreciate all your wisdom from parenting to being an African American in our culture, and the views and perspectives that you bring to it with what your parents left with you and taught you, and how you're being intentional with your children. I mean, it's truly an inspiration. I also love meeting someone who can almost, I mean, you surpass me in Star Wars knowledge, and it's a rare day. I wish you'd know me in my prime of Star Wars knowledge. I was swimming in it. I could tell you names, dates, places. I mean, again, like I told before the show started, I told Chad, that was my historical studies. Like it was Star Wars was the practice of historical studies for me. It has truly been a joy having you on, and I think we're gonna have to have you back for a
Likewise.
sequel because I've got
I love
questions that are
that.
left unanswered, but we are at an
Oh,
hour
yeah.
and a half, and I can't hang on any longer. There's a Moon Knight episode to watch. I know you probably want to
Oh,
watch it
yeah.
as well, and like we gotta go.
Yes, we do. Got to find out how crazy he really is.
That's right.
It's crazy.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
Eric,
It's
it
been a
was
pleasure.
great having you on, and I guess I'll see you at an upcoming belt test or something.
Very soon.
That's right.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Cool.
Have
Thanks,
a good
Eric.
one.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can support us by sharing the show with your friends and family. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
Want more of the Dad Report? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and even join the community over on Discord. Don't forget to send us your dad jokes for a chance to be featured on the show.
Remember the words of Billy Graham about fatherhood. A good father is one of the most unsung, unpraised, unnoticed, and yet one of the most valuable assets in our society.
So if you are a dad, we're cheering you on. If you have a dad, be kind to him. And if you know a dad, tell him about our podcast.